Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Emmet Otter's Jug-Band Christmas from 1977. So every year I do a different Jim Henson Christmas special. I did the first one last year, and this year I'm doing his second one, which would be Emmet Otter's Jug-Band Christmas. I didn't grow up with this necessarily. I was aware of it. I've heard of it, of course. You couldn't have not. And I remember thinking it was kind of slow and not my thing. I don't know when I saw it. I don't remember when I saw it. I'm aware I've seen it though before this, like once, maybe twice, not sure. I remember not being a huge fan, and I rewatched it this time, and whatever-year-old Jim that was totally wrong, because this is a really wonderful Christmas special. It is very modest. It is very small. It plays like an old, like kind of modest type of 30s movie, just about two people trying to make it through Christmas. And I really like that about it. Also, you have great songs by Paul Williams. You have, the puppeteering is great, of course, because it's Jim Henson. You have Frank Oz and Richard Hunt, Jerry Nelson, David Gotez, Aaron Oscar, people like that. People like the classic team that brought you The Muppet Show, basically. You can't really go wrong with that team. I know this was sort of apparently very much a technical test to see if they could do more elaborate sets, and a test for the eventual Muppet movie that would be made later, but it doesn't play like a camera test. It plays like, kind of a simple, well-told, kind of nice Christmas story. And I just really love it for that. It's very entertaining. It has great songs. It has a really good Christmas message. And actually has a great message for artists in general. Now, Emmet Otter's Jug-Band Christmas is about Emmet and his ma, who are struggling to get by. Emmet uses Pa's old tool kit to do repairs and basically do odd jobs, like a fix-it kind of guy, and make money that way. She uses her wash tub and does various sewing and various odd things just to get by, basically. And they're not doing too great, but they're able to sing songs and have a good attitude to get themselves through it. They haven't been doing well after Pa died, who we know that was a snake oil salesman. We don't know the logistics of all that. They try to make it through, and they know Christmas is coming, and they hear about a talent show, and you can win $50 if you win this talent show. Emmet knows of some guys who want to put a jug band together, and they talk about the various instruments you're supposed to have in a jug band. Apparently, I really don't know if that is what you're supposed to have in a jug band, but he knows that he has to have a wash tub base, and he would have to put a hole in Ma's wash tub, which would take away her basically source of income. And but he decides, if we make these $50, I can get her something nice that can set us up for a little bit. It's worth it. So he does it. At the same time, Ma wants to enter the talent contest, and then hawks Emmet's tools so that she could then get the material to make a dress so she can then sing in the competition. And they both, enter it to hopefully win those $50. And I know it's sort of like I guess it's not a gift to the Magi thing. I don't know. It's like kind of a fable thing that they sell these things. They basically destroy their income potentially to do this contest, which is scary. That gave me some anxiety, to be honest with you. But it's kind of this sweet story of how they will do anything, just to have a chance at some sort of prosperity. What I think really works about this special is it has its heart in a very modest, small place. It's just this nice little town that Emmet and Ma live in. They're otters, various creatures, but it doesn't really go too big. I think Paul Williams gives it a certain energy through his music. This was also a test for him before he would do the Muppet movie, and then he would do Muppet Christmas Carol as well. And it's very kind of southern rocky, very kind of down home kind of stuff. I mean, Paul Williams was in Smokey and the Bandit. He knows southern rock, basically. Paul Williams is a great songwriter, which I don't think I need to tell you, but in case I did. And he wrote Rainbow Connection. So all these songs are very, very tight, very, very fun. I was tapping my foot while I was watching just these otters swim down the river, which is not in itself compelling, maybe in a puppeteer standpoint, but to watch overall, it's because that Paul Williams songs really drag you through, because in a normal kind of, if this was a 30s movie, you'd have some funny little characters or something, but you need a little more. And Paul Williams I think he really shines through the special. And Jim Henson, who directed this, picked the right people, because there's so many times this could have, 7-year-old or however old I was when I saw it, thought it was boring. It's not boring, because he's able to lift you and compel you through it. One of the other things about this special that's interesting is it's dated 1977. That's when it aired on the CBC in Canada. And then it didn't actually come to, it came to America in 1978 through HBO. But then most people, and it seems like it got most of its acclaim through an airing on ABC in 1980, where it got like reviewed in the New York Times. It got some Emmy nominations, as well as, I know it's aired intermittently. It aired on Nickelodeon in the 1990s and so forth. Most holiday specials, if they're a real holiday special, if we're being real about it, are sort of timeless in a way. They just keep re-airing, and it doesn't really matter what year they are. I guess 1977, because CBC is a pretty big network. Seems like the ABC one was its real big push to most audiences, not just because I'm American, from what I could read about it, and that was kind of where it got most of its acclaim, where it got Emmy nominations, things like that. If any of you saw it on different air dates, I didn't go through like every time it aired throughout the years. Now it's just on Amazon Prime, and it's gone through various iterations. Kermit has an introduction, kind of bookends the special. He does an introduction and then does an outro. He originally had narration throughout the special, which to my understanding when it initially aired it had, but then when Walt Disney bought the Muppets, they took him out completely, and now he's just in the intro and outro and doesn't have any narration. I'm curious what that narration was, if anyone can find that special. The one I'm reviewing does not have Kermit's narration. I'm not sure if that's to its detriment or not. It seems like most of its acclaim came from the version with Kermit's narration, so it's kind of a shame that, like, if it's a Disney thing, or they're just worried that Disney would get upset, or I don't know, but I hope somebody figures that out, because it'd be cool to have the original version. One of the things I really like about this special is kind of what it says about the arts, and, you know, obviously these people are performing, Emmet and Ma, and they're performing in this talent show, and they're very talented. They you know, the Jug-Band is very good. She does this song, and everyone, you know, in the audience is at a standstill because it's so gorgeous. But then, spoilers for Emmet Otter's Jug-Band Christmas, you see this kind of mean group of kids, I think they're called, from River Bottom, who come and have this band called Nightmare, and they play a song, and they're like, you know, crazy, and they like don't follow the rules, and they'll break into a music shop and start playing really loud, or just kind of like total jerks. They'll like knock things over, they don't care, all this stuff, and they eventually win the talent contest, and Ma and Emmet lose. Basically they lose everything because they can't make any money. Neither of them win the $50. I think Ma was going to buy back the tools when she won, but Nightmare wins, and then they go off, and they were told like they just needed that something extra, and they kind of, the Jug-Band and Ma come together, form a singing group, and then the judge who told them that then hires them at his restaurant, so they actually all have jobs, which is not $50, but, you know, could potentially be more than $50, so that's good. Interesting, because this is directed by Jim Henson. It is based on a book by Russell Hoban and Lillian Hoban. And I think I'm looking at this more from the perspective of Jim Henson, who is a filmmaker who really hit his stride and probably his commercial peak during the 70s, both with Sesame Street and The Muppet Show. And if you look at, when you think of the 70s, you don't really think of Jim Henson. You know, Jim Henson kind of lives in this like almost dateless weird thing, not because he didn't try to do that like Disney, just sort of happened. When you think of 70s filmmakers, you think of Scorsese, Coppola, the bad boy, you know, Bogdanovich, all those guys whose behavior in the 70s were, they were kind of like the bad boy, bratty generation and all that stuff. Lucas and Henson would get along and work together, obviously, but and Frank Oz, but that was more the blockbuster thing. And I know Star Wars kind of came out while this was in production, but my kind of meta kind of theory thing is that he looks at this as, if you look at Jim Henson, he made quality product. He was not, you know, this drugged out crazy, I don't know if he did or not, to my understanding I don't think he did, but he's just a consistently good guy. He makes quality product. It's simple, it's modest, it's for education, it's, you know, for equality, things like that. He's not trying to give you a bummer 70s ending or something like that. And most of the acclaimed artists were like these bad boys, or, you know, bad kids basically, you know, who did a lot of drugs, who were, you know, complete messes, who were hard to work with, who were, you know, auteurs and all these things. And when you think of those period and those acclaimed artists, those are who are, but Jim Henson keeps trucking along, making project after project that is modest in its nature, and it's just trying to say like, hey, it's good to have a dream and achieve something with that and do something positive within that dream. And when you look at, you know, the bad band basically, I get vibes that maybe they're supposed to represent like what an artist should be in the 70s, what that idea of an artist should be. And Jim Henson's sort of saying with Emmet Otter and the Jug-Band and Ma that they are just as talented, just as interesting, but part of being an artist is realizing you don't have to go that path. You can be this kind of more modest just very well-trained artists, and you will find sort of work, but maybe not be, the top of, every award show and everything like that. Not that the Muppets didn't get all those things, but I kind of read into that a little bit, because it just seems like, not that he was a smaller artist, or he probably made more than a lot of those guys, but it's more that they got to achieve being legends at the time, and it didn't really feel like he gets to be that, maybe in retrospect, but he doesn't get wrapped in with that period as much as people with that kind of an attitude. So I kind of look at Emmet Otter's Jug-Band as kind of like how Jim Henson more saw himself as like kind of, a very creative workman-like attitude, who was able to like put out lots of product, who was able to say positive things with it. And that's not very much like the 70s kind of creative world was like at the time. It was more like a bummer thing. And I think it shows like you don't have to be this bad boy who reminds everyone about existentialism. You just have to, make really good stuff that has good product in it, experiment, which he did. He was an experimental filmmaker, but he had a much more different worldview about doing these things, and it took him a while to get a TV show and to get a movie, and he really had to prove himself in a very positive way. He couldn't come in and like, have nudity or anything like that, and that wouldn't have worked. So I think, I don't know, I'm probably making that whole thing up, but when you look at his career in a lot of ways versus how this special plays out, I kind of read into that a little bit. I might be completely off, but this works as like a modest little story should. They try to do the best they can on Christmas. It is insanely depressing to think about their lives, but they don't kind of take on that thing. And I also think this plays in a very universal way, because you don't know what year this is. I mean, obviously they're like otters and foxes and stuff, but it plays in a way that's like not overly, I think, sentimental to a fault, which I think is a big Christmas special problem. This is like the right amount of sentimentality, because they're definitely bummed, they're definitely in a bad place, and it doesn't, wash over all that. It's like that's very much their reality, but they have to try to get this to work, and they're talented enough to get this to work, but like life just hasn't worked out for them in that way. I like that this shows, hey, keep your head up kind of thing, at the same time as like having these great songs, being really compelled by them. It's actually in some ways a very 70s kind of thing, but it's just like having a more positive worldview about it. And I think that's really nice. I'm probably going to watch this again, to be honest. After watching it this time, I really fell in love with it. And I think it shows like how good Jim Henson was at making compelling characters, at making these characters who you wanted to follow through whichever, whether it be a Muppet caper or going to Manhattan. And same with this. It's like I want to follow Emmet Otter and Ma and see, hope they can make it out. And when they don't, it's heartbreaking, but you kind of just know that they worked really hard. You like believe in them. And I think, a lot of Christmas is about like believing and hoping things work out and hoping for this magical holiday that will right the wrongs of the whole year, which, I guess I'm very much feeling in 2020. But I think it's showing like, hey, things are going to work out. They're very hard workers. You're doing the right things. Just sometimes, jerks win and they move on, and you don't know much about them and you don't really understand it, and they don't appeal to what you're doing, but you should just keep on your good path and hopefully things will work out. And maybe they didn't work out for Emmet Otter in this huge way that would have, worked out, and he would have been able to get Ma things, and for Ma it didn't work out, but they have this new thing that they really love, and they are able to go on and have a good Christmas knowing that they're going to be able to perform every night at this restaurant, and that's a much more positive situation than they were in before. It's a nice way to look at Christmas. It's a nice way to look at life. And I think it shows, not everything has to be a huge, gigantic triumph. You can just have a little triumph that makes your life a little bit better. And that's sort of, what a modest special like this can really achieve. And I think it shows what the strength of all these people are, is being able to understand how to give the story the proper ending that's appropriate for it, and kind of give you kind of a real good sense of life, like most Muppet things really do. So if you have seen Emmet Otter's Jug-Band Christmas and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.